Yes, ma'am.
Yes, okay. So good morning, everybody. And I have been asked to present on basics of image processing and its application. Okay, so this will be just an introduction to image processing. Most of you would be knowing image processing already, but this will not be a more technical session because I couldn't do justice in 2 hours to cover the entire image processing within 2 hours. So I'll be giving you the outline. So I'll be giving outline where it is being used, how it is being used, and what research could be done in this particular thing, right? So now this is the motivation why we are why we want to learn image processing. Why do you want to learn image processing? Because today we have got AI, machine learning, speech, everything, or currently being experimented in a very great volume by researchers, and these are some of the avenues where we can do research like automatic text detection, biometrics, defect detection, geographic information systems, industrial inspection, medical imaging, object detection and tracking, object recognition, image restoration, compression, forensic image analysis, and so on. I have just mentioned a few. I cannot keep on putting so many things. This is not the end of the list. Okay, you can keep on having so many things. So I just given pictures for each and every um, this particular topic. So what is automatic text detection? So you can, for example, you have got a document where you have signed something. I can go check the signature, whether it is an authentic one or not. I can just see the labels and find out the text. So this is an image, right? So from the image, I have to take the text portion, then I have to identify what text is it. So from that image, I have to convert that into a text. So that is automatic text thing. The next one is biometrics. Biometrics, we know nowadays even this our Aadhaar, everything is based on biometrics. Biometric is what? The independent traits or unique trait of an individual which cannot be copied by somebody else. So we are using biometric and we are trying to analyze biometrics, and that is once again an image. And defect detection. So nowadays everything is automated, right? So we are going to pass the apples through a conveyor belt and we are going to pack it into packages, means we have to identify the defective ones. That was done manually earlier. Now we are trying to do it automated fashion. And similarly industrial inspection, where we can see the nuts and bolts or other industrial PCB motherboards and other boards for any defect verification. Okay, and geographical information system, where we are using satellite images to analyze the data. So whether we are getting cyclone or not, whether there is some vegetation in the particular area, and rivers, what happened to the river bed, whether we have got water, sufficient water, or the river bed is drying out very fast. All these things can be taken handled by the satellite images. And once again, as I told you, industrial inspection, where we can see that PCB motherboards, whether there is any defect. It is very difficult for us to do a manual check of all those things. All these things can be done using image processing, packaging, whether properly packed or not. Here we can see that bottle is half filled here. Can you see that? The bottle is half filled here. Can you see this? So all these are some of the industrial things which we can make use of. Medical imaging. Medical imaging is a widely used topic nowadays. We are talking about image guided surgeries, where you can do surgery seeing images. So doctors can easily do surgery. It is guided by the image processing software, and there are so many applications because medical imaging, once again, we have got so many modalities, like we have got CT, MRI, ultrasound, X-rays, and so many mammograms. There are so many images, and all these images can be experimented with, right? Next is object recognition. Nowadays we're talking about object recognition using that deep learning networks, where we can see the objects being identified along with the label, whether it is a cup, what is the probability of that being a cup is 94%, what is the probability of that being a remote being 88%, and so on. So we are also identifying the object as well as telling their object score also. We are also giving the score for the particular object. Not only detection, it is also tracking. So I can track a particular vehicle. The vehicle is moving. For example, CS vehicle particular, the vehicle is moving. We can track the vehicle to the destination. And similarly, we can track people where they are going. We can track all objects. Okay, that is possible by image processing. And there's one other important thing is image restoration, where we can see in the left photograph being damaged, and then we are able to restore that back to the original form. Okay, this is also possible. And one more application is compression, see, we have to transmit images through the internet. Naturally, we are going to have what? Compression, the transmission issues because of the limited bandwidth. So what we do, we are trying to remove unwanted things from the data so that my compressed data will not suffer. Okay, even when you decompress, I should not get any damage. I should get back the original data. So in which way I can remove redundant data? In the first figure, we can see white color blocks. Okay, white color blocks are redundant data that I am trying to remove, and I am trying to code the data. See, when I have got 2 blocks, I put 2. I have got 3 green blocks, I put 3. We call this as coding. Okay, I'm trying to code the data, compress the data. I'm going to send it through the internet. So you can see the image at the bottom showing a tiger. So this was the original image. Before compression, it was 1.84 MB. Okay, after compression, I am reducing that to 915 KB. Still, I cannot see much of the data lost. Okay, almost maybe some sharpness is lost, but I am able to still retrieve the data after compression. So this is one important topic where researchers are doing so much of experiments on coding techniques. Okay, and one more thing is image forensic analysis where we can find out duplicate photographs. See, in the court of law, what they do, they try to give some false evidence in the case of false photograph, fake photographs. Okay, in the first figure you can see a military jeep. Okay, that has been hidden by the tree there in the second image. Can you see that? We have got 2 trucks in the first image. In the second image, you can see only 1 truck. The other truck has been hidden by the trees. Okay, and similarly in the second, you can see a crime scene where we can see bullets at the. Any doubts?
Please mute your audio.
Okay, the second figure we could see that crime scene where we can see some bullets lying on the floor next to the dead body. The next image you can see the bullets have been removed from the crime scene. Is it okay, we'll move on to the fundamentals. So now we have seen what are the avenues where we can do research. Okay, we have seen different areas in which image processing is made use of. So now we'll try to see some fundamentals. What is an image and some basics on image. Okay, so what is an image? Image is a 2-dimensional array. You can see an array here, rows made of rows and columns. At the top you can see normally we have normally we have what? This is 0, 0, right? And we go to the number of rows, say m, and number of columns, say up to n. But in an image, we normally give the origin here, 0, 0, and this is number of rows, say m, and number of columns, say n. 0 to n minus 1, m minus 1, whatever it is. Okay. So intersection of row and column is called a pixel. We call this as what? A pixel. Intersection of row and columns is called as a pixel. So this is the image. You can see the image here, 0, 0. This is number of rows and number of columns. Sorry, this is number of rows and this is number of columns. And each intersection is called a pixel. And what is f of x, y? F of x, y is the intensity of, for example, you take this. So this x value is say 100, y value is say 20. Okay, at the location 100, 100th row, 20th column. Assume this is 100th row and 20th column. At the location f of x, y, at the location x, y, what is the intensity? F is what? F is nothing but the intensity or the gray value or the brightness of the pixel at that location. So this is generally we define an image should be a function of x, y. I is equal to function of x, y. So this is your image. Okay. So here this numbers represent gray values. Okay. 9 representing brighter value and assume this is scale. Okay, so 0 na black, 0 means black and say 9 means white, for example. Try to understand like that. Okay, so what happens, you can see here 9 means we have assumed that to be white. Okay, almost white, or need not be white. For example, you say 16 is white, 0 to say 15. We'll take a scale, 0 to 15. 0 is black and 15 is white. Somewhere 7 is gray. gray color. We have different shades of gray. Okay, 0 means black. 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 7 we'll have dark shades of gray, and after 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 up to 15 we'll have bright shades of gray, or 15 is white. So if you're going to see, we can see 9, 9, 9 is somewhat after this gray. 7, 8, 9. A lighter shade of gray. You can see a lighter shade of gray here, and this is a darker shade of gray. Wherever I have 5, I've got a darker shade of gray, and wherever I have got 7 here, I'll be having the next light shade of gray, and wherever I have got 1 is almost black. Okay, so I am getting black here because I know 0 is black, 1 is next to 0, so it will also be nearer to black only. So 1 is almost black, and next I have got 3, 2 3s here, so I have put black here. So if you're going to plot this, what you get a face like structure here. So this is how an image is formed. Okay, image is nothing but a two-dimensional array where each row and column indicates a pixel. That is the intensity. This is the intensity value at that location. Assuming this, I am assuming like this: 0 means black. I have got different shades of gray up to 15. So 15 is what? White. So in between I'll be having different shades of grays. Okay, different shades of grays. And if I'm going to plot this, I'm going to get this image. So this is a general idea of an image. So generally we represent image as a matrix. So here instead of seeing 9, 8, 7, I am using a different number, because normally the gray value ranges between not 0 to 16, but the gray value ranges between 0 to how much? 255. 0 means what? Black. 255 means white. And in center point we'll take 128, right? 128 is gray. This way the gray shade will be getting darker, go towards black, and this direction the grayscale will be getting lighter, goes towards white. Okay, so when I say 183, so it is a lighter shade of gray. When I say 160, it is also a lighter shade of gray. When I say 129 and 130, it will be around this area. So I don't have any dark colors. Maximum here all are above 128, so I'll have only bright colors. I'll not have any dark colors in this particular image. So depending upon these values, if you're going to plot the pixel colors, I am going to get the image. So what we understand, an image is an array, 2D array, and each row and column represents a pixel, and each pixel I can represent using an intensity value. Okay, F. It's a function of x comma y. Suppose I substitute different values of x and y, I'll get different intensity values. And if I'm going to plot this, I am going to get the image. So I can define an image as a function of x comma y. Okay, hope you understood. So types of image, we have got binary image, grayscale image, and color image. So as I told you, if I use 1 bit to represent a pixel, okay, so this is an image. For one, so assume it is a 5 cross 5 image. We'll assume a 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, 5 cross 5 image. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I am assuming a 5 cross 5 image. So what happens? I want to write 4. Okay, so what I input? So if I join this, what I get? I get 4. I get 4. So wherever I want to get this values, I'll put 1. Others I put what? Others I put zeros. Others I put zeros. 0 means black. 1 means white. Okay. So wherever I put 1, I'll be putting white color. Okay. And wherever I am putting 0, I am going to put black color. So what happens? In a black background, I will get this white colored 4. Okay, so this is your binary image. Can you see? Only 2 colors are used, either a black or a white. So when I use only 2 colors, it is called as a binary image. So here we can see this pixel is 0, 0, 0, 0. Wherever I see white, I put a pixel value, namely 1. So this is your image. So for each pixel, for example, each pixel can take only 2 values. It can take either 0 or it can take 1. It can only take 2 values. If it's 0 means black, if it is 1 means it is white. Each pixel can take only 2 values, 0 and 1. So what I say, a pixel, I am using only 1 bit per pixel. This bit can be either 0, this bit can be either 0, or this bit can be either 1. I am going to use only 1 bit per pixel. If I put 0, it is black. If I put 1, it is white. So how many possible colors I can have? Because I'm using 1 bit, 2 power 1 is equal to 2 colors. What are the 2 colors? One is white, another one is black. One is white, another one is black. And this is your binary image. See, this binary image is also good only, no? So we are not use any colors. We are not use any different shades of gray. Just 2 colors, black and white. Using these 2 colors, I am drawing this image. Even this image, I am able to understand this is a person. This is a brain image or the skeletal image. All these things I can understand. So this is binary image. Hope you understood. So what about grayscale? Grayscale, I told you, will be how many colors? 256 colors. Generally 0 to 256. 256 means white, 0 means black. What is the power of 256? 2 power 8 is equal to what? 256. What is 256? 2 power 8 is equal to 256. So for each pixel, I'll be using how many bits? 8 bits. For each pixel in a grayscale image, I'll be using how many bits? 8 bits. Okay. See, for example, bit 0, bit 1, so on up to bit 7. Okay. So bit 0, bit 1, I'll be using 8 bits. Totally how many bits? For 1 pixel, I'll be using 8 bits. So if I assume all the bits to be 0 initially, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bits. Okay. All bits 0 means this represents 0, which is nothing but what? Black. Okay. So I'll have different combination. No. 1, அப்புறம் 1 0 1 1 அப்படியே நிறைய combinations போயிட்டே நடுவுல வரும். அப்புறம் 127 when I'm going to get to 127, I'll be getting what? I'll be getting 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So this is 127. This is gray color. So I'll be having different combination. The last combination is all 8 ones. Okay. Last combination is all 8 ones. This is nothing but 255. A binary value of decimal value of this is 255. So I'll be having totally 256 combinations of gray value. I'll be having 256 combinations of gray value. Suppose I am going to use 8 bits. I am going to use 8 bits per pixel. If I'm going to use 8 bits per pixel, I can have 256 different combinations where 0 represents black and 255 represents what? 255 represents white, and all these are intermediate shades of gray, and all these are intermediate shades of gray. Okay. So now somebody tell me what happens if I'm going to use only 2 bits per pixel. When I'm going to use 2 bits per pixel, how many possible colors are there? Only 4 possible colors. 0 0 0 1 1 0 1 1, because only I'm using 2 bits, bit 0 and bit 1. I'm using only 2 bits, bit 0 and bit 1. So 0 0 is one combination, 0 1 is another combination, 1 0 is one combination, 1 1 is one combination. Suppose I'm going to use 2 bits, I'll have only 4 possible combinations. Suppose I'm going to have 3 bits, I'll be having 8 possible combinations. Suppose I'm going to use 4 bits per pixel, I'll be having 16 different combinations. That is what we saw in the previous case, 0 to 15, not 16, 0 to 15. 0 to 15, where we are going to get 16 combinations because I am using 4 bits per pixel. When I use 4 bits per pixel, 2 power 4 is equal to 16. I'll be having 16 gray level combinations. Okay. So hope you understood this color scale. Grayscale. Grayscale is I am going to use, instead of 1 bit, if I use 1 bit, I'll have only 2 colors, 0 and 1. That is called a binary image. If I use more than 1 bits, depending upon the number of bits you're going to use, I'll be having so many colors. If I use 2 bits, I'll have 4 colors. If I use 3 bits, I'll be having 8 colors. If I use 4 bits, I'll be having 16 gray shades. If I use 5 bits, I'll be having 32 gray shades and so on. Okay, hope you understood. So here we can see this, as I told you, this is starting from 0. 0 is black. And if you take 255, 255 is 8. And if you take something around 120, it will be gray. Okay. So these are darker shades of gray. If you move towards this is darker shades of gray. If you move towards this, it is the brighter shades of gray, and ultimately we'll be having white here, and ultimately we'll be having black here. So 0 represents black and 255 represents whites. So on seeing the number itself, intensity value itself, we can understand what color it is. Okay. When I say 51, I can say it is a dark color. When I say 204, it is a light color. When I say 230, it's almost white color. That way we can identify from the value what would be the gray level. Okay. So this is called as grayscale. Okay. L minimum is the L minimum what? 0. L maximum here is 255. when I'm going to use 8 bits. Okay, suppose I am going to use 4 bits. What happens? L minimum is equal to 0 and L maximum is equal to 15. I'll be having 16 colors. Hope you understood. Okay, so this is what is told here. So here we can see the same image I am drawing using 256 colors. So different shades of gray I can use. So the image looks very beautiful, right? So the resolution is very good. It is realistic in nature. If I'm using how many gray levels? Because to draw this, to build this image, I am using 256 gray levels. See what happens the last side. I'm using only four gray values. Here we can see all these values are given a single value. There is no difference. Okay, so you can see the leaf, the sharpness has come down. Can you see? If you take this leaf and this leaf, because I'm using only 4 different colors, I am not able to give realistic results. I'm not able to give realistic. So here everything is merged together. Here everything is merged together. You can see the difference here and here. So this is how here using 16 gray values, I am able to draw this image. Okay. So this is almost similar to the 256 gray values because our human eyes cannot differentiate so many gray shades. Okay, our human eyes cannot differentiate so many gray shades. But here it is very smooth. Can you see? It is smooth here, but it is not so smooth here. It is totally damaged here. Can you see? It is totally waste here. So what happens when you reduce the number of gray levels? Only 4 gray levels I'm using because I'm using only 2 bits to represent a gray value. This is not of that good quality compared to the first one. So this is also okay, not bad. This is also okay, not bad. But how many gray levels I'm using? Only 16 gray levels I'm using. Using 16 gray levels also I'm able to generate the image. Using 4 gray levels also I'm able to generate an image. Using just 2 gray levels also I'm able to generate an image. So it is not a difficulty. Okay. Hope you understood. Next is color image. Color image, everybody knows it is an RGB, red component, blue component and a green component, and these are called the primary colors. These are called the primary colors. If you're going to combine these colors, we can get a huge different shades of different colors we can get. Okay, so we can see how this parrot is an colorful bird which can be generated using the blue component image, the green component image and the red component image. For each component I am going to use 8 bits. For each component I am going to use 8 bits. 8 for red, 8 for green, 8 for blue. So totally how many bits? 24 bits per pixel. In the grayscale value I said 8 bits per pixel. Here for each pixel how many bits I require? I require 24 bits. So 2 power 24 is nothing but 16,077 lakhs 7,216 colors. Approximately 16 million colors. Can you imagine? 16 million colors are possible. That is why seeing a television with such clarity and such colorful images are able to see nowadays. Because in the case of RGB, I'll be using 24 bits per pixel. So I can imagine different possible colors. I can have different combinations. So if you take a red will have 8 bits. Okay, 0, 0, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. From 8, I'll go up to all ones. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we'll be having 256 shades of gray. Similarly for red, similarly for blue, similarly for green. So 256 shades of red. I can combine one shade of red with another shade of blue, another shade of green. I get one color. You take some other shade of red, some other shade of blue, some other shade of green, you get a different color. So if you get the combinations, I'll be having around 16 million colors. So this is how color image is generated by combining the red and green, and the resultant is combined with the blue component to get the final color image. Hope you understood, right? So we can see a binary image, same Lena image is a standard ground truth image for all image processing applications. So Lena image, you can see the binary image. I'm using 1 bit per pixel, and you can see I'm using 8 bit per pixel, and I am using 24 bits per pixel, and 512 cross 512 is the size of the image. This is the size of the image. It is 512 rows and 512 columns. That is the meaning. Okay, as I told you, an image is a 2-dimensional array having rows and columns. This is 512 rows and 512 columns. That is the meaning of this line. Okay, 512. Okay, so now we'll go to sampling and quantization. See, normally if you take a photograph using a camera is not if you talk about digital camera, it is totally different. So technology is different, but general camera is an analog camera. So what happens? I capture a picture Analog means what? It is continuous in nature. It is continuous in nature. So when I want to convert this into a digital format, what I will be doing is I'll be taking what? Samples. I will not take all the values. I'll take samples here and there. Okay. Then I'll try to join all the samples. So if I join all these samples, once again, I'll get the curve. Okay. Instead of giving these all the values, inter values like this, I'm not going to take all these values. I take samples here, I'll take samples here, I'll take samples here, and so on. When I'm going to join this, I am going to reconstruct the signal. So image is also a 2D signal. Image is nothing but a 2D analog signal. So this analog image, I have to convert that into a digital image, means I have to take samples. I have to take samples. Okay. So I hope all of you understood what is sample. So once I have taken the samples, I have to quantize them. I have to quantize them. What is quantization? Quantization is give some values to the sample, give some quantity to the sample. I have to take the sample and I have to assign a quantity or a value to the sample. That is called as quantization. For example, I am taking this particular pixel and I have to give a value. What is the gray value? Gray value is 120. I have to take this sample. I have to take a gray value. So gray value is 180. Like this, I have to give some values. That is called as quantization. Okay. So quantization is a what gray value I am going to give and the number of samples I am going. Suppose, okay, we'll take this one. So this is a signal. Assume this is a signal. This signal I want to reconstruct. So for example, I take samples like this. So these are the samples I have taken. I have to only samples I'll be given. I have to now reconstruct the signal. I'll take some other color. Okay. I have to reconstruct. So what I will be doing, I will be joining the samples. Okay. I will be joining the samples. This peak I'll simply join like this. Can you see? I'll simply join like this. Can you see? So what signal now I get? I get a signal like this. But what was my initial signal? My signal was like this. Yes or no? So what happens? I am not getting the exact signal back. Suppose I want to get the exact signal back, I should get more number of samples. I should take what? More number of samples. For example, this is the thing, means I should take samples very close. If I take samples very close, then I can able to reconstruct the signal properly. So if I want to reconstruct the signal, now I can join these samples to get almost a original signal. Okay, almost the original signal. So the quality of an image depends upon the number of samples and number of gray levels. I'll tell you what is gray level, right? The next image you can see. So this is an image. Assume this is an image. Take the line A to B. So here I am going to take the gray values. I'm going to take the samples in this line. I'm not take the entire values. I'm going to take samples in this line. Okay, I'll be taking samples in this line. So I am taking samples. So I have to find out what is the gray value of this sample. So here it is white. Okay, and now it is turning into dark color, somewhat light color, dark color. Once again, it is going into white. So this I am going to plot. So this is a high color. 1 means white, then 0 means black, and so now these are the different shades of gray. These are samples I have taken. Okay, these are samples I have taken. White is coming down because it is darker, so it is coming down, and somewhere it is increasing slightly. It is increased somewhere here, so it goes up, then once again comes down darker, then suddenly it goes to white. From here it goes to white, so suddenly it goes to white. Also here I am taking the square indicates samples. The squares indicates samples. Okay, so now this is samples I have taken. So you have to join this. I'll be getting this line. Okay, so what is quantization? So if a sample lies within this portion, for example, this portion, I should draw a straight line. Suppose I am taking 2 samples here. So both these samples will given the same gray value. Okay, for example, these if you take this is lying in this particular portion, means one more sample is here. All these will be, both these samples will be given the same quantization level. Okay, so these 2 samples will be assigned the same gray value. Because it is a continuous signal, a sample which will be lying close together cannot be given different values. So these 2 samples will be assigned the same gray value. For example, what I say in the class, persons who are getting 40 to 50 will be put in one group, group 1. whether he gets 42, 49. So all will be put into a single group. Similarly, all the samples lying within a particular range will be given to a single color. That is what I mean by quantization. Hope you understood what is sampling and what is quantization. Suppose I am taking a straight line like this. In this particular image, I want to take samples. I am going to take samples here. Can you see? These are the samples. Why I am putting this line here? Because the color value moves from white to dark shade, not going to zero exactly, light, dark, almost black color, then it goes to light color. So once again dark color, then white color. So that is why first white is high, then it is coming down, low value, lightly bright, once again low value, then once again white. So this is your, in this signal, so we can, signal is given as a, this is a signal. Can you see? That is why they are given like this. So in the signals, signal is continuous in nature. In the signals, I am going to take samples and I am going to quantize the samples. And once I do this, I am going to get a digital image. See, this is the original image, how smooth it is. And now I have taken samples. I am trying to reconstruct it. I am going to get an approximation. It is not the real one. It is always the approximation of the real world scene. So I am not able to exactly get back the signal because the signal is very smooth, because I am taking so much of values in between. But in the case of sampling, I am only taking samples. So when as I told you, when I am trying to reconstruct it, I was not very exactly getting the original signal back. Yes, I am losing some data. So similarly, in this case, if I'm going to reconstruct it, I'm not getting the original signal back. I am losing some information, but still I am getting an approximation. I am getting an approximation of this particular. Here we can see it is white color. Here it is say white color. I have quantized this with gray values. So almost similar shade I am trying to get here, because here the shades are varying, like a smoothly it is varying, but here it is not smoothly varying, but still I am able to approximate it to the real scene. Okay, this is the idea of sampling and quantization, how an digital image is acquired. So once you are acquiring an image, see, we can process image only when it is digitally in format. Otherwise, we cannot process the image. Okay. Next is spatial resolution. Spatial resolution, we talk about camera resolution, how many data points per inch, DPI, they dots per inch or points per inch, they say. Within an inch, how many pixels you'll be having. When the pixels are closely packed, I'll get a very smooth image like this, high resolution. Okay, when the pixels, so here this is a loosely packed pixels. So number of pixels per inch is only 10. So 10 rows and 10 columns within the 2.54 centimeter means 1 inch. Okay, it is 1 inch. So 1 inch, we take a 1 inch square. The number of pixels is 100 pixels, 10 rows and 10 columns. If you're taking the same 1 inch, I'll be having 20 points per inch. Okay, so 20 rows and 20 columns. So you can imagine this is a high resolution. So this is using a high resolution camera. This is using a low resolution camera. It is almost very, very poor resolution. Okay, it is almost no. When the resolution comes down. Sorry, when the resolution comes down, we get a we call this as checkerboard effect. We call this as checkerboard effect. Sometimes in TV also we'll see, like we have witnessed this, right? Checkerboard, sometimes it will not be, clarity will not be good. We'll have a checkerboard effect. Okay, so this is about spatial resolution. So what kind of resolution you need depends upon the application. So in this particular image, you can see, we can count the number of cars. So we can see 1, 2, 3, 4 cars is there. For this particular application, this resolution is sufficient for me. But when I want to find out what number it is, the number plate. Okay, can you see the number here? I cannot see the number here, but I can see the number here because resolution is high. I'm able to see the number. So when you want to count the number of cars, I can go for this resolution. But when I want to find out what is in the number plate, then I have to go for this particular resolution. So your image quality also depends upon the type of application you are going to work upon, right? So now only we have seen what is an image. We have seen the basics of the fundamentals. Now we are going on to the digital image processing. So this is our topic. See, when I say digital image processing, it encompasses a number of steps. So it will not be sufficient for time for us to complete everything, but we'll have an idea. Okay. So these are the various steps. Those who have learned image processing would have seen that Gonzalez book, where we got the same diagram. I have taken the same thing from the same diagram only. So these are the various steps we'll be discussing one by one. So I'm not going to discuss about that. So first step is image acquisition. Acquisition is what we have to first capture the image. So we have to capture the image. So how image is captured normally, this is physics, so I need not explain more. A light has to be incident on a particular object. The object will reflect it back. That is captured by the camera aperture or the imaging system, where we are going to form the image. And after sampling and quantization, I am going to get the digital image. Okay. So the illumination source, light falls on an object. The object reflects the light. The light is captured by the camera. It forms the image on the imaging plane. From the imaging plane, I have to convert that into a digital format using sampling and quantization technique. And this is the digital image. So this is the original image and this is the digital image. Okay. So this is image acquisition. We have already discussed that. So I'll not take much of my time there. Next, we'll move on to image enhancement. Image enhancement is once you have acquired the image, sometimes while taking the image, you might shake your camera, right? Or there can be some motion problems. Motion problem means motion artifacts, like the person will move while taking the picture. Okay, so all these things or lighting will be very poor. I've taken the image during evening time, 7 o'clock in the evening. Lighting is not that good. So lighting is poor. There is motion artifacts. And all these things has to be removed before you do further processing. And we call that as pre-processing. Process, something you do before that is called pre-process. So pre-process, one of the steps is what? Image enhancement. We have to pre-process the image, for which we do image enhancement. Sometimes we do image restoration. Image restoration, I told you some photograph, remember some old photographs, damaged photograph. I'm trying to restore the image. So it's called, sometimes we require, so even this comes under pre-process. Image restoration also comes under enhancement is different, restoration is different. Enhancement is you are trying to improve the quality of the image. Restoration is trying to restore something which is caused due to some damage that we can calculate mathematically. That is totally different. So don't confuse these two together. And morphological processing also will be used in all cases. I do not know why they have put it here, but anyway, morphological processing is like using this particular set theory, mathematics is a kind of set theory, which is used to do enhancement. It is used to remove noise. Even this we can consider, all these things you can consider under pre-processing. Okay, all these things you can consider under pre-processing. Next is segmentation. Segmentation is we have to find out which particular portion is important for us. Okay, in the previous case we saw that car plate. So in this particular application, I am bothered about what? The nameplate. I am bothered about the nameplate. I am not bothered about this portion, the background, the other cars, the road, nothing. I am not bothered. I am only bothered about this one. So what I should do, I should segment this region of interest. My region of interest, segment region of interest. My region of interest is what? The nameplate. So I am only bothered about this. This is what I mean by region of interest. I have to segment or identify that particular portion alone, because I have to do further processing only on this region, not on these regions. So these are background for me. I am not bothered about the background. I am bothered only about this region of interest. That is what I mean by segment the region of interest. Next is, once you segment the region of interest, next is representation and description. See, for example, I want to find out a particular person who is working in your office. I can simply say he'll be tall, he's coming from so and so place, his father is working as so and so. If I give these three information, you'll be able to identify the particular person. I will not give the entire photograph to you to find out who it is, right? So only certain features I give to you, you are able to identify the particular object. Yes or no? For example, I'll say this particular person is studying in the third year. I want to say a particular boy or girl. I can simply say that boy is already had some problem. So this way, if I say immediately, I can understand the particular person. So do not give the entire photograph and need not process the entire photograph to get the person, right? So similarly, what is a representation and description? So I can represent the entire image or the region of interest in a form which can be easily understood by the machine learning algorithm. So I have to give certain information about the particular region of interest. And instead of giving the entire region of interest, what I can give, I can extract features from that region of interest, and only those features I can give to the machine learning algorithm, so that the machine learning algorithm can learn fast. Instead of me giving all the information to the machine learning algorithm, come on, you start studying, means it's very difficult for me, right? So what I give the best information to you, the most representative information to you, so that the machine learning algorithm will be able to understand the problem very clearly, very fast. That is the idea of representation and description. And finally, you have to identify the particular object. What is the name, number plate 7415373? So that is a number. So I have to do the object recognition. That is the last step. That comes your machine learning, that will be dealt by somebody else. I think your organizer is going to take care of that particular topic. Machine learning. Okay, so that comes under machine learning. So these are the various steps. So I'll be dealing only image enhancement and segmentation. Even representation and description is using mathematical formulas to get the features. So even that doesn't come under image processing. So the basic things comes under image processing is image enhancement and segmentation. I'll try to cover to some extent image enhancement and segmentation. Okay. And these dotted lines, image compression, color image processing, these are also some of the stages, but normally these are not part of any particular image processing application. Not all application requires color image processing and image compression. Need not do compression for doing any project, right? We not do color processing for any particular project. So these are some other areas where we make use of color image processing and image compression. So all these encompasses digital image processing. So we have seen image enhancement. Then image enhancement, can you see here? We have taken coffee beans, coffee seeds, and we can see how it is a dull image, poor contrast image. After enhancement is highly improved. Okay. The next is image restoration. So what you see, your digital image processing Gonzalez book, where we can see a blur one there, which has been, when I'm taking the photograph, I have shaken my hand, I have taken it, and here we can see the image is restored. Okay. Next is morphological processing. So first we can see test is the original image. Then there is a dilation where you want to thicken it. I can make a thick image. Eroded image, next is a thin image. Internal boundary, I can put a line inside. External boundary, I can do. Morphological gradient, I can thin an image, I can thicken an image, I can skeletonize an image. So these are different morphological operation. All these are done using set theory and set operations. Okay. And next is segmentation. Segmentation, as you can see, this is the original image where I have to segment the lung region alone. So I want this portion alone. I want this portion alone. Okay. So what first I'm creating an atlas, then I'm going to superimpose that on the lung image, and then I'm going to get back just the atlas portion along with the original ribs. Can you see? So how beautifully the lung region has been segmented. So this is one of my students' work where she is going to find lung cancer. So what we have done is we have tried to segment the lung region. From there, we have to just consider this portion for feature extraction, for representation and description. So this portion is my region of interest. From this region, see, these are other regions which I'm not bothered about. Okay, so this is my region of interest. From this region of interest, I will try to see. Can you see a tumor here? I try to extract the features, and then I am going to find whether there is a tumor or not. So next is representation and description. I told you I can take all this. I can take some features from the image. That is so I have to take features from this region, right? I'll be taking some statistical features or textual features or shape features. I'll be taking some features from this image, and these features I'll be having, say, thousands of features. Thousands of this all features. I've taken 1,000 features. From this, I can select the best features. I can select the best. I don't want this feature. This is not so very important feature. For example, the person is having curly hair. This is not important, something like that. Okay, some features which are not important. So these features I am discarding. I am taking only the best features. Can you see this feature, and this feature? And so this is the final feature which I am going to give to what? To the machine learning algorithm. Machine learning algorithm. So the entire lung region. From the entire lung region, I am taking only 3 features. Instead of giving the entire lung, I take, say, 3 or 4 features, and I am going to give to the machine learning algorithm. Using these 3 features, the machine learning algorithm will be able to understand whether I have got tumor or not. Okay, so this is the idea. So object recognition, we can see how the objects are detected and recognized. It is say glasses, it is saying notebook, coffee, phone, and so on. So how it is possible? We have to train the model, then only it can understand it, not simply say glass or notebook. How we train a small child, showing the pictures of animals, pictures of birds, pictures of fruits, and so on. And after several times of teaching and iteration, the a small boy or girl understands and tries to learn. Similar fashion, we have to make the machine learn. Instead of giving the entire picture, the machine is given only features. That is a basic difference. For the child, what we do, we give the entire picture and we say this is apple, this is orange, this is banana. That way we teach the children. But here we take features from the objects and we are going to give it to the system. System is going to be trained, and once it is trained, the machine is going to create the model. And once the model is created, we can use that model for testing your new image. And the machine will immediately say, okay, this is apple, based on the learning which has done earlier. Okay. And image compression, we have just to show the size of the image. I've taken this, so don't bother about this. WinZip, I have taken that. And next is color processing. So color processing, as I told you already, we have got three components: the primary colors, RGB, and when you combine RGB, we'll be getting different colors. For example, you can see if you combine red and green, I get yellow. Okay. If you combine blue and green, I get turquoise or a sea green. If I combine red and blue, I get pink. Can you see? So this way we have different combinations. If you take each check, each square or each thing, cell, this is one color, this is one color, this is one color. So I just want to show you that. So we have got so many colors, different shades of red, different shades of pink, different shades of blue, different shades of violet, turquoise blue, light blue, parrot green, dark green, so many things we have got. Okay. So this is about color processing. So I think we have discussed all this. So image acquisition already you know. So now we are going to move on to image enhancement, because I am going to discuss only about image enhancement and segmentation in this topic, right? So image enhancement. So we have to, why we go for enhancement? We want to improve the quality of the image. We go for image enhancement. So we can see this is a high contrast image. See how the image has been enhanced. We can use so many techniques available for enhancement. So this is one technique. I think it is histogram equalization they have used here to enhance this particular image. Okay, here we can see a blur image and how it is being enhanced. So we cannot use the first image. So we will a subjective nature. We see the image, we simply throw it away, right? But see how the same image has been enhanced using enhancement techniques. Okay, so next is segmentation. Segmentation is we are going to partition the image. We know what is segmentation, I told you earlier, so there is no need of telling once again. So this is an image. See how I am going to segment that into the constituent parts. I am using different colors to indicate the different portions in an image. The background is shown using black, and the ring is using some color, and the hand in some other color, and so on. So we segmented the three regions, along with the ring in the hand also is shown in a black color. And we know what is feature extraction. I already told you, so there is no discussion here. Feature extraction is simply extracting features. We'll get a set of features. From the extracted features, we have to select the important feature. That is called feature selection. Okay. And finally, classification is using some machine learning algorithm like SVM, supervised learning or unsupervised learning. We can do this recognition. So these are the MATLAB codes. I don't think we require now. Okay, so now with regard to, we have seen the general steps in image processing. Now we'll see image enhancement techniques. That is, one is based on the pixel itself. I simply take a pixel, modify the pixel. That is called point processing techniques. Next is filtering. Filtering is based on some neighborhood. I'll discuss that, so don't worry right now. Filtering can be done in two domains. One is spatial domain, another one is frequency domain. So what is spatial domain? What is frequency domain? In spatial domain, so this is the picture. This is the number of rows. This is the number of columns. You operate straight away on the picture. You operate straight away on the picture, or in the spatial domain, spatial domain of space. You are going to operate in the coordinate system. Okay, I'm going to operate in the coordinate system, x and y, x value and y value. But I am going to use neighborhood. I am going to use filters. I am going to use filters, or I am going to instead of operating on a single pixel, I'll be operating on the neighboring pixels also. This is called neighborhood. Okay, if I want to take this pixel value, I will not simply modify this pixel value. I'll consider the neighbors around it. Okay, considering all the neighbors, I will decide the new value for this pixel. Okay, this has got some old value, say x. Okay, I'll then take all these values into consideration, do some modification, and ultimately I get a new value, say x dash. This is called filtering methods, and filtering methods can be done in two domains, one in spatial domain, another one in frequency domain. Spatial domain means I am operating on the image itself. So this is the pixel value, then I consider the pixel above, below, left, right. This is a pixel value means I'll consider all the neighboring pixels. I'll operate, I get the new value for this particular pixel. This way I'll be using the neighboring values. What about point processing? I'll take a pixel. If I want to modify this pixel, I'll simply operate on this pixel. I will not consider the neighbors. I will not consider the neighbors. I'll simply operate on the particular pixel. If I want to modify this, simply operate on this. Don't bother about the neighbors. When I do spatial filtering, I take into consideration neighbors. What is spatial? Spatial, I'm going to work on the picture itself. What is frequency domain filtering? I'll convert this image into a different format. Okay, I'll operate on this. I'll operate on this and do the inverse of transform. So I get back the picture. I get back the picture. Okay. So now instead of operating straightly on the picture, what I do, I convert into a different format. In this particular format, I do all the operations. Once I have completed, I'll reconvert back into the picture format. So in the whatever changes I have made here, I can see in the picture format, because this format I cannot see. It is not possible for the human being to understand this format. Okay. So what I do, from the picture format I can understand, human being can understand. So what I do, I'm going to convert into a different format. In this format, I will do all the enhancement operations, all processing I will do in this format. And this is called frequency domain. I'm going to operate in the frequencies. I'm going to operate with the frequencies. Then I am going to, this is not visible to the human eye. So what I do, I have to reconvert back into the picture format. So whatever modifications I have done here, I can see in the picture here. This is called as frequency domain filtering. Okay, we'll discuss, don't worry. So if you, I told you in the case of point processing, I am operating only on a single pixel. For example, the pixel value is 5. Original value is 5. After our processing, the original value may change to 7. 5 will change as 7. So this is, I'm going to operate only on this value, not on the neighboring value. It is called point operations. Some of the point operations are image and negative, contrast stretching. Another important operation is histogram processing. So histogram processing is what we have seen here. I have shown one image here. This is based on, say, this is the original image. I have done histogram processing to get this image. Okay, more enhanced image. Histogram processing, where we see histogram equalization, image subtraction, or some of the things. Okay, and for example, R is the intensity. For example, I told you 5 is the original value R, and S is the output value 7. Okay, initially the value of the pixel was 5. After doing the operation, my pixel values changed to 7. And what operation I'm going to do? S is equal to transform the original value R into new value S. Okay, transform, T stands for transform. Transform the original value R. R was 5. After transformation, the value was changed to what? 7. That is the what meaning of this one. Okay, and the number of gray values, the value of S and R can range between 0 and 255. So after transforming, for example, R value is 255. Okay, after transforming, S value cannot be 260. S value cannot be 260. Why? Because I know the S and R value should only be between 0 and 255, the permissible gray values. With the 2 power 8, I can have only 256 values, that is 0 to 255. After transfer, if I'm going to get 260 means this is wrong. I should have only values in the range 0 to 255. Okay, next is what is S? S is the transformed value and R is the original value. For example, 255 is the maximum white value minus R. For example, R is 10 means 10. So the new value of S is what? New value of S is 245. So 10 will be changed to 245. Okay. Assume R is equal to 220. What is S? S is equal to 255 minus R. R is 220. So this becomes S is equal to 35. S is equal to 35. So original value of R is 20. So wherever it was 220, I should change to 35. If I do this, I get image negatives. Hope you have seen image negatives in olden days. If they show the negative image, So wherever it is light, it will be dark, and wherever it is dark, it will be light. So 220, we know it is almost white. White has been changed to 35 dark. Okay, and wherever it is dark, it will be light. So this is the idea of image negative. So we can see the result of image negative. So this is the input image, and I am going to apply the transform. S is equal to 255 minus R. If I do this, this black will be changed to white, and wherever it is white, it will change to dark color. So this is called as image negative or complement image. Next is contrast stretching. For example, see, this is original image. R is the original pixel value, and S is the modified pixel or transformed pixel value. So if you take this portion, right? This portion alone. Okay, so this is the gray value 0 to 255, and this is the gray value 0 to 255, 0 to L minus 1. L is 256 minus 1, 255. 0 to L minus 1, 256 minus 1, 255. So far, if it is a gray value is 10 means it is also like this. It is slowly changing. Okay, but suddenly if you take this, suppose the gray value here is say around 70. Okay, L value is 70, and if you take this L value 75. So this is say 80. Okay, so this is 80. If you take this, suddenly here if you take this, it is only 10. When the L value is 70, the Y value, sorry, when the X value is 70, assume this is Y, or this is R and this is S. Okay, when the R value is 70, it was S value was 10. Then only small change, S value, R value is 80, S value is changed to 90. Only a small change. Take this one. S values, R value is 85, S value is 90 or 120 like this. So here in this range only, here the contrast has been stretched. Dark color was changed to a very bright color. Okay, so otherwise it is a gradual change. So 10 means it is 5. 5 means a very slow change up to this portion. Up to this portion, we can see this is more, Y value is less. If you take this portion, this is less, Y value is more. Can you see? So this is called contrast. This I want to stretch the contrast in a particular range. So this range alone, I want to increase the contrast. Hope you understood what I am trying to say. Okay, so we can see this input image, and this is the contrast. So we can see how the contrast has been improved, right? So this is not a good image actually. This is not so very. It is a high contrast image, because what we have done in the case of contrast stretching, we are trying to improve the whatever gray value which is lying in this range. I am trying to stretch the contrast. So what happens? It has become a highly contrast image. Okay, next is thresholding. So what you do in see in thresholding, so this is 0 to L minus 1 or 255, and this is 0 to 255. We say this is R, this is L. Okay, up to this point, say this is 128 midpoint. Okay, 0 to 255 midpoint is 128. Okay, so all the pixels, all the gray values lying in this range 0 to 128, all are assigned the S value 0. All are assigned the whatever. For example, I take this value, this is also given the Y value 0. If I take this value, this is also given the Y value 0. So all the pixels lying in the range 0 to 128 are given. So all pixels lying in the range 0 to 128 are assigned 0, and all the pixels greater than 128 are assigned the value 255. Now if you take a pixel here, this is 130. Okay, on 130 it is assigned the value what? 255. 140 it is assigned the value 255. 255 it is assigned the value 255. So this is called thresholding. You read pixel one by one from the image. take this pixel, find out whether it is less than 128. Less than 128, you change it to 0. Greater than 128, you change it to 255. So after transforming, the picture will contain only 0 or 255. So it is a binary image. So you can use thresholding to create what image? I can create a binary image. You take the pixel, if the pixel is less than 128, make it black. If you take a pixel, if it is greater than 128, you make it white. So thus I get a binary image. So here we can see this is a Lena image, and here I have got the binary image. Simply I'm taking one pixel less than 128, you convert that into white, sorry, black, otherwise make it white. So you get a binary image. So next is histogram. So what is a histogram? You take a image. Okay, you take an image. For example, I have got 7 like this, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. So what I have to do is, so this is the gray values. We have to find how many ones are there, how many twos are there, how many threes are. So these are the gray values. I have to find how many one gray value are there, how many two gray value are, how many three gray value they are there, and so on. So here in this particular image, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possible are 8 values. 8 gray values they have given because they use 3 bits. 2 power 3 is what? 8. So I have got 8 gray values. I have to see, I have to plot the histogram. So they have given the number of pixels having the gray value 0, number of pixels having the gray value 1, number of pixels having the gray value 2, and so on. So from this I am going to plot. So in the case of 0, the number of pixels is nk, and R stands for gray value. Okay, so I am going to, in the place of 0, I am going to plot 10. So in the case of 0, I am going to plot 10. In the case of 1, I am going to plot 8. In the case of 2, I am going to plot 9. In the case of 3, I am going to plot 2 here. In the case of 4, 14 here. So if I'm going to plot this and I'm going to draw the graph, I'm going to get something called as the histogram. So what is histogram? Histogram is the plot of gray level and number of pixels. Gray level and the, here it is shown, gray level and the number of pixels. If I'm going to plot this, I'm going to get a histogram. Okay. For this, similarly, this particular image, here I have got not 7 values, 7 colors. I am going to, sorry, 8 colors. I have got 256 gray shades of gray. Okay, I've got 256 shades of gray. I have to take 0th pixel. How many pixels are having the value 0? How many pixels are having the value 1? How many pixels are having the value 2? So on up to how many pixels are having the value 255. Like what we have put here, no, the table. Similarly for 7, we have to keep on going 8, 9, 10, so on up to 250. How many pixels? You have to put the pixels like this. And I am going to plot the histogram. And I am going to plot the histogram. We can see all the pixels are only in the dark shade. So this is 128 and this is what? 255, because I am using 2 shades of gray. So we can see all the histogram values are lying in the darker side. 128 is the midpoint, okay, this side and that side. We can see no pixels in the brighter side. So we can say this is a dark image. Okay, now we take this bright image. Can you see? I am going to plot the histogram. We can see, for example, this is 128. So we have got no pixels in the dark region. So this is a bright image. So from the histogram itself, we can say whether it is a light image or a dark image. Without seeing the picture, we can say whether it is a dark or light image. So here we can see a low contrast image. There are no pixels in the darker side, no pixels in the brighter side. Most of the pixels are what? Fully in the center portion. Okay, so this is not high contrast, it's a equalized image. Sorry, it is a histogram. Histogram, equalized image, equalized. It is a histogram equalized image. So we can see histogram is available to the entire range. See, everywhere there is histogram, some pixel available, right? So here I am going to get a enhanced image or histogram equalized image. Hope you understood, right? So this is what histogram equalization is about. So I have seen an original image, and this is how the image has been enhanced using histogram equalization. And this is the original image. You can see the histogram. Most of the histogram is in the center. I don't have any pixels in this region or any pixels in this region. So some of the pixels are in this region only. So this I am going to spread across the entire gray value. So after which I am going to get a beautiful image or an enhanced image. And here we can see it is very dull or a low contrast. Here we can see how the image has been equalized. Okay. Next is image subtraction. Image subtraction is used to find out change in action. For example, there is some surveillance camera. I want to see what happens, who is going, how the movement is changing. Means I can take first frame, subtract the second frame. I can take the difference and I can find out who is doing what. We'll show an image later. Now we can understand this using this one. Okay. So there is a elephant, a small elephant there in the field. This is the original field. I will simply take these two and subtract what I get. I'm going to get the mask. Can you see that? And I'm applying some, how I get this color black and white? This is a color image here. This is a color image here. I'm going to subtract these two images. So I'll be getting this portion alone. This portion alone I'll be getting. So that I have to convert into a binary image. I know for binary image I should use what? Thresholding technique. So I am applying a thresholding techniques. That is why I'm saying whether it is greater than some threshold, you make it black, less than some threshold, make it white. So I'm going to get this elephant outline. Can you see here? I can get this mask. So this is used in case of, for example, in case of surveillance, suppose I have got a first frame, second frame, I can see a thief entering. Thief is entering here. This frame is empty. Nobody is there. So when I'm going to subtract this frame and this frame, I can get the thief. So I can easily find surveillance. After this time, at time 12 night, there was nobody here. 12:1, somebody has entered the room. So I can subtract these two frames and get the thief. So this is how it is used in image surveillance, image subtraction. Okay. Okay. Now we have to see filtering. I told you we have got filtering in two domains, spatial domain and frequency domain. Spatial domain is what? As I told you straight away on the picture, I told I have to apply a filter. Filter is like a normal sieve. Okay, gelada we say, no, it is like a sieve which we have to move across the entire image. So this filter I'll be moving next like this, like this, like this, like this across the entire image. I'll be moving and I'll take this filter here. This filter I'll do some operation, change the center pixel. This pixel was initially a value was 120. After doing this operation here, I'll be getting as 130. Okay. Then next I have to move the pixel filter to the next location. I'll do some operation. This pixel center pixel I'm going to change. Okay. Center pixel initially it was say 140. Now I'm changed to 190. So now I'll be moving the filter to the next location. I'll be changing the values. Okay. So this kernel will have different functions. I'll be having so many filters. There are mean filter, median filter, Sobel filter, Prewitt filter, robot filter. There are so many filters, and each filter will have some values inside this. For example, a filter with not empty filters. Some will be an empty filter. Some will be having some values -1, -1, 1, 1, 0, 0 like this. It will have some filter values. This filter value, I'll be moving on to the image, do the operation, convolution operation. I get the final result like this. Okay, hope you understood. So this filter can be used for so many purposes. One, to remove noise. For removing noise, we are using what? Mean filter, median filter will be using min filter, max filter. There are so many filters for removing noise. And one more filter is there that is used for finding the edges. Sobel filter, Canny filter, robots filter, Prewitt filter, and so on. There are so many filters for finding out the edges. Okay, so filters can be used for enhancement also. It is also used to find out the edges. And as I told you, see this is, can you see a line here? This image has been converted into frequency domain. So can you imagine from this domain what to do? Nothing I do. Nothing I know about this image. This was my original image. After converting to frequency domain, this image becomes like this. This, as a human being, I cannot interpret this, but I can do some operations on that. That operations are being performed here. It is being performed here and converted into this. This image after performing operation has turned like this. Once again, I cannot understand this image. Okay, I cannot understand this image. So I have to do an inverse transform to get back this image. I can do the same operation using a spatial domain straight away on the image, or I can convert into a frequency domain, do the operations here. I get the results in the frequency domain, but I cannot understand this. So I do an inverse Fourier transform, get the information back. So both are same. The output of this is this. The output of this is also this, but it does in a different domain. This does in a straight domain. Okay. So why we want to go for a frequency domain? Certain operations are easy in frequency domain. Certain things can be done very easily in frequency domain. So we go for frequency domain filtering. Okay. As I told you, we can allow types of filters: low pass filters, high pass filters, band pass filters. What are low pass filters? Low pass filters will allow the low frequencies. See, when you take an image, what is a image? Image is a collection of multiple frequencies. So what is frequency? Change in intensity. See, suppose like this is high frequency, right? This is what? Low frequency. Low frequency. Suppose I have got a uniform background. Okay, we'll take one new page. Here, if you take this image, okay, this is like uniform. There is no change in frequency. Okay, light variation. Suddenly there is a dark green, light green, but there is no more variation. Here, there is no more variation. The frequency is very low because the background or the image is having almost similar frequency or same frequency. But what about this one? Here we can see it is green suddenly changing to black. So there is a sudden change in frequency. Here we can see from it was a low frequency, suddenly the frequency changes here. So once again low frequency because all are black, all are black, all are black. So low frequency, suddenly the frequency changes here. Okay. So whenever there is a high frequency, we say there is a edge. Whenever there is a low frequency, we say what? It is a background or a uniform location. There is a uniform place. Whenever there is a change in intensity or change in color, change in intensity, brightness, when we say there is a high frequency component there. High frequency components are edges. So these all come under edges. Okay, these all come under edges. So these are high frequency components. Otherwise, if you take this is a background, only slight change. Light green, dark green, sudden change, slight change. So there is no much of variation in frequency. If you take this entire image, the entire image is a collection of frequencies. Collection of frequency. We have got high frequency, we have got low frequency. So many signals connected together to get a final image. That is a square wave, right? So this is how you get. That is why we say image is a signal. Signal is a collection of frequencies. So we are going to analyze the frequencies in the frequency domain. I'm not going to go much beyond that. So what is a low pass filter? Low pass filter will allow only the low frequency signals. So we'll be getting a blur image when you do, because there is no change in even what is high pass. High pass is going to send the high frequencies. High frequency the edges. So when you have the edges, we'll have a sharp image. Okay. So even if you draw a diagram in your school days, what you do, you put a black outline around the image, right? Why? We want to make it bright, because that is going to sharpen your output, sharpen your image. So edges are taken care by high pass filters, because these filters will allow only high frequencies to pass through. High frequencies are nothing but edges. So edges are taken care by the high pass filters. What about low pass filters? Low pass filters will take care about the information only. It will not bother about the outline or the edges. It will not show sharp nose or sharp eyebrows. It will not show, but still it will show an outline. Okay. Band pass filters is certain band of frequencies I can pass, and I need not pass only high, need not pass low. I can specify, okay, I want to take only frequencies in this range. Take only those frequencies. That is called band pass filters. So it depends upon the application. So smoothing filters, I told you, I'm going to take so we are neighborhood, right? So the initial value is 106. The pixel value is 106. I'm going to get a 3x3 neighborhood. I am going to do some operation. Okay, so after this is the original image. The regions are 104, 100, 108, 99, 106. 106 is the center pixel. These are the neighboring pixel values. I'm going to operate on the pixel values using a smoothing filter. Smoothing filter is nothing but an average. You take everything, divide by 9. Okay, add everything, divide by 9. That is the filter order coefficients or filter values, 1 by 9, 1 by 9, 1 by 9, because I'll simply add, it is an averaging filter. I'm simply add and divide by 9. That's all. Average filter. Okay. This, after doing this, the center pixel 106 has been changed to 98.33, but I cannot give 0.3, 0.4x. I have to round to 98. So after conversion, I am going to convert that to 98. Okay. So spatial filters, I told you it is operating on the spatial domain, and we have got two types of filters: smoothing filters and sharpening filters. Smoothing is for low frequency, allowing low frequency. As I told you, average filter, median filter are examples of smoothing filters. Sharpening filters is high boost filtering, derivative filters. Okay, I'm not going to go into details of all this. I will simply show you. Average filter, can you see? Average filter is a smoothing filter. Smoothing means it is going to blur. It is going to allow only low frequencies. So we can see the edges are not very sharp, but still I'm able to get the coins. Can you see? If you take this, here the edges are blurring. The edges are blurring. So it is allowing only low frequencies. Edges are not given. Okay. Median filter also. This is the original image. This is median filtering. This is also a smoothing filter. Next is sharpening filter. Can you see? This is the original image. See how the edges is sharpened here. Okay, so we can see the edges are highly highlighted in the case. So here the edges are not so very clear. Here we can see how the edges are very clear. So this is your sharpening filter. And next we go on to image segmentation. So as I told you, we have finished about enhancement. Then we are going to segmentation. Segmentation is what? We have to identify the region of interest. So normally if you take a selfie, what you do? In your photograph contains so many friends standing behind you, will have the building behind you, you straight away go see your face, right? Why? Because our human brain is capable of segmenting your face alone. It simply goes how your face looks there in the selfie. Similarly, in the case of if computers could do that, that is called segmentation. So I have got so many backgrounds, so many things, but I am bothered only about my face, means I should be able to segment that particular region. For segmenting, we have got so many techniques: thresholding, edge-based segmentation, region-based segmentation, clustering-based segmentation, neural networks for segmentation, and so on. There are so many segmentation algorithm. Muttumari, able to hear me?
Yes, madam.
When shall I stop? When should I stop?
11:30.
11:30. Okay, so I am moving fast because I have got some more slides. I'll just show the applications where it could be used. Okay, we'll rush up anyway. 11:30. Shall I stop?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Okay. So these are the various segmentation techniques. Here, what is I told you thresholding already. Thresholding is trying to divide the image into two groups. It is binarizing it is converting into a binary image. So what I do is you can see here the first image. I am taking the histogram. I'm going to plot the histogram, and here we can see there is a correct valley here. So I can take this as a threshold. So all the pixels lying in this range, I can make it black, and all the pixels lying in this range, I can make it white. So I have got an exact segmented image. Can you see here? I am able to segment this portion alone from the rest of the image. So this is how I can use a threshold to segment, but my histogram should be bimodal. Bimodal means it should have exactly two peaks like this, where I can put a threshold here. But what about this histogram? Can you see? Can I put a threshold here? Can I put a threshold here? It is not very clear. The boundary is not very clear. So I am trying to put a somewhat a threshold here. What happens? This becomes black and the remaining everything becomes what? White. Can you see? It is not an exact segmentation because I am trying to put a threshold here. Only all the pixels lying in this range are converted to black and others are converted to white. So it is very difficult. I am not getting a good segmentation because of the uneven illumination. This is not a proper illuminated image. It is a low contrast image. So what I do, I go for this is just called Wurtzow binarization. Wurtzow binarization is putting the histogram, finding out the threshold. It's called Wurtzow. Simple thresholding is I can simply randomly fix some number and threshold. That is totally different. Wurtzow is based on histogram. I am going to find out the peak and valley. I am going to find out the valley, and in the valley I am going to take the best threshold value. What is adaptive thresholding? Instead of doing the entire histogram for the global image, what I do is I am going to divide the image into small blocks. For this particular block, I'll take the histogram. I'll take the valley. I'm going to find the threshold. I am going to find out the this one. I am going to segment that particular portion. I am going to create. So for what I do, I'll be taking piece by piece, like a window. I'll divide this into cells, and for each cell, I'll take the histogram. I'll do the binarization. That way I do. Compared to this is somewhat better. Okay, but still I have got this portion wrongly thresholded, but still I am somewhat better compared to this particular result. This is called adaptive. Adaptive means I am going to adapt to the situation. Instead of taking the global histogram like this for the entire image, I am going to take histogram piece by piece, block by block, and then I am going to find out the threshold and results. Okay, so this is about threshold based segmentation. Next is I told you I can use filters for finding out edges like Robert, Canny, and Previtt, and using this edge detection, then edge joining techniques available, I am able to segment this CAD portion perfectly. Okay. So next is region-based segmentation. See, we can see this is the region is being created. Can you see here the dots moving here? So what happens is I am going to grow the region called region growing. I'll start with some point. Okay, I'll start with some point. I'll grow the region by connecting all the similar pixels. By connecting all the similar pixels, I've shown the pixels here. By connecting all the similar pixels, I'll try to grow the region. Just a minute. Is about region growing based on the neighbors. I'll be connecting all the neighbors depending upon the similarity. So if they are homogeneous, then I'll be connecting them. So this way what I do, I'll try to find out. So I mean this all these will be considered as one region. This will be as one region. So all the pixels having similar gray values will be counted into one region, forming a particular region. This is called region based segmentation, and example is region growing. Okay. So next we'll move on to region splitting and merging. So next is another is region splitting and merging. What I do is this is the original image. I am going to divide into 4 things. Okay. Then I am going to see whether all are having the same values. If they are not having the same values, 1, 1, 1, 3 is here, 4 is here, 9 is here. So they're not having the same values. Once again divide into 4 values. Okay. So everything is given into 4 regions. Here we can see all are 1. So I can leave this. Here we can see all are ones, I can leave this. Here we can see all are ones, I can leave this. So here we can see these are different. Once again, we have to divide this into 4 regions. Can you see here? So similarly, we keep on doing this division. We call divide and conquer. This is called the divide and conquer methodology. We'll be keep on dividing into small blocks until we have got all similar blocks. So now we have to merge all ones together. So here we have got 1, 1, 1, 1. So these things should be merged together. These things could be merged together. So we can see where all I am having 1, these are merged together. Can you see? And wherever I am having separate values, I have given separate colors. So we have got the different final segment. Okay, this is segmented image. This is called region splitting and merging. Clustering also we can do. How to create clusters. Suppose I have given some pixel values. So based on what? So normally if you give like this to a child, what happens? I'm going to give this to a child. I will not say apple or orange, nothing. I will say strawberry, nothing. I will say the child on seeing the shape and the color will put it into 3 groups. Maybe he's not knowing this to be apple, this to be a lemon, and this to be a strawberry. Still the child is able to convert this into 3 groups based on the shape and color. It will see and try to segregate into 3 groups. So that is what clustering based segmentation algorithm. There are 3 different segments. The machine will be able to see this and try to convert that into 3 segments using some clustering algorithm like fuzzy C-means, K-means, and so on. Okay, next is neural networks for segmentation. Now we are using deep learning for segmenting objects. Here we can see we have got a dog and a cat here. So after going through several layers of deep learning, ultimately the cat and the dog portion has been segmented from the background. Okay, can you see here? So this is how we are using neural networks to do segmentation. Okay, so far we have seen the basic things like image processing, what is an image, then we saw what is the general approach to digital image processing, the various key stages, and then we saw about enhancement, and then we saw about segmentation. But generally any problem is given to you, we cannot stop with segmentation. We have to go for what? Feature extraction and classification. That is what I have told you. We have to go for feature extraction, then we have to go for classification. So we know what is a feature. I told you already. There are several features like statistical features, shape features, structure features, and so on. Depending upon your application, we have to choose the informative, discriminative, and independent features. Okay, then only your features will, your model will work. And features are usually numeric in number. We give only numeric. I cannot say tall, short. Everything should be in quantized. Everything should have some values. Okay. So depending upon your application, for character recognition, I'll be using a different feature. For speech recognition, I'll be using a different feature. For spam detection, in case of email, I'll be using a different features. In computer vision, for image speech processing, I'll be using different features. So features are not fixed. So depending upon your application, you have to choose your features. Okay. And we have seen the pre-processing steps. Then we have seen segmentation. We have seen feature extraction. And finally, you have to go for classification. Okay. Classification, as we said, we have got training and testing. So this is training images. We are going to give the images. We are going to train the machine. And once the machine is trained, we have got a learned model. The machine is learning. machine is learned. So for testing, what we do, we give the test image, but we will not train it. We'll not say this is cat, this is dog. We'll not give the label. We'll not give any label. We'll simply give the image and ask the machine to tell what it is. So the machine will extract the features and compare with the model, and already the learned model is there. So it will compare with the model of an apple. It will compare the model with the what all we have got here, tomato, compare the model with a cow, with a dog, with a horse, and it is going to find the best score. Definitely, this being an apple, the score for apple will be high. So immediately the prediction will be given. So this is a general approach. And in case of learning, we have got supervised reinforcement learning and unsupervised learning. All these things we are not discussed. We'll straight away go to, for example, assume this is an application given to you, automatic number plate recognition. So you want your project is given to you, we have to automatically identify the number plate from the car. So what is the first step? You have to first take the picture of the car. Then we have to segment the background. We have to take the number plate. Then after taking the number plate, we have to identify characters. Okay. So first step is we have to segment this portion. We have to segment this portion. Next, what I should do, it is plate localization. Then we have to adjust the plate orientation, sizing and all. Then normalization, because the numbers sometimes will have some blurring and all those things. For all those purposes, we should do orientation, sizing, normalization. You have to adjust the brightness, contrast of the image and so on. Finally, you have to segment character by character. So you have got M, N, O, 3, 1. So all things has to be, I have to take this, I have to take this, I have to, then I have to compare M with the already existing models for M. I have to compare with the template. Then I have to compare this character with the template. I have to identify I have to recognize what number, what character it is, M or N or O, like this. We have to compare with the template. And all these things we have to do in the case of automatic number plate. So we have to take the problem, we have to see what are the requirements, and accordingly we have to formulate the problem design. Okay. Sometimes what is the issues? We have got background clutter, poor lighting and low contrast. Sometimes it is not proper. It's an old car, old board. We have to go for restoration. There is some motion blur. So these are some of the issues which you have to take care while designing this particular system. Okay. This is what I want to just discuss, because you will be requiring this for your this one. So some of the areas where you can use this image processing is biometrics, fingerprint, iris. You can use your voice, even to recognize your voice. You can use your palm print, you can use your face, you can use your handwriting, how your handwriting. Your handwriting is also a trait, okay? It is vary from individual to individual. And it is used in target recognition, object recognition in case of defense, army, air force, navy, where it can detect objects like all these tankers and so on. And then is aerial photography. So these are various avenues where you can work upon. So aerial, we can check about vegetation, other things, and about the factory setup. We can surveillance, all these are possible. And next is satellite imagery. As I told you, this is also one huge topic, because the image format is different. So you have to convert that into a format which could be processed by your machines and so on. So this is one area where you can work upon. Next is autonomous vehicle. See, autonomous vehicle, once again, object detection. Here you can see the driver is not even using the steering wheel, right? It's simply sitting. The car is moving by itself. So here it has to go for object detection, because you should identify what car is coming in front of it. There's any vehicle coming in front of it. We have to apply the brakes and so on. Everything is making use of AI. Without AI, nothing can be done. You have to connect to the internet. We have to get information from GPS and so on, how it is being handled. So autonomous vehicles, once again, and moreover, you have to do object detection at a very fast and real time. So we have to see whether a car is coming in real time, not in static time, right? So what happens now? If you take longer time to predict, means what happens? You'll end in an accident. So we should be very fast in identifying the presence of any object in front of you. And next in traffic monitoring, where you can do automatic toll booth. No, so instead of having a toll booth, what you can do, while the car comes, you can simply find out which car is moving, and you can simply pass the car through the toll. And similarly for finding out which car is moving fast. Suppose the car is moving very fast beyond the allowed speed limit, then I can simply charge him without even stopping the car. We can simply charge and send information to him. So all these are traffic monitoring. And this is our friend thing, no, web series, from where it is doing face detection. Okay, in real-time face detection, it is specifying who it is. Okay, and next is facial expression recognition, where we can see the expression. Just simply we can identify what expression. Based on this, we can go for customer analysis and other analysis also based on facial expression. Then this is object tracking, where so many objects are there in the scene. We are only tracking the ball. we see how the ball is being tracked to the end. Okay, so this is of object tracking, and this hand gesture recognition, where we can go for gestures as well as for sign language. For those who are deaf and dumb, I can use sign language and use as a user interface instead of I simply now use my fingers gestures to change things, right? So this is one thing. And this is where I told this human activity recognition. So here we can see a person is giving something to him and he's taking the bag back. So here we can see this is done using subtraction. I told you, image subtraction, how it is being done. Frame by frame, you can subtract and see what is the difference is being there. It is done using this one. And in medical applications nowadays, we can go for image guided surgery. In olden days, we never had that privilege for the doctors. We have to do invasive procedures. Now they can see the computers and operate instead of bother about them doing it manually. The computers are operating the doctors in surgery. Next is morphing. We can see this. This is used in cinematics and other places for aesthetics and other things. Morphing is one area. And this is one thing I should like to say. Image inpainting is we are creating photographs. See, this is one person whom we don't want in the frame. I want to remove that portion. So what I can do in painting, I can simply mark this portion manually. Then the computer is going to, or the algorithm is going to impaint that portion based on the background. So it is going to cover that portion with this sea and the sand. You can see in just a few minutes from now, to a few seconds from now. So I have impainted that portion, made a mask. See, after which that portion is reconstructed from the background. You can see the image there. It has been reconstructed. So this is one thing we can do. And the last one I'd like to say is image forgery detection. What do you do is see in the first image, we can see that particular chair is empty in the middle. Okay, Donald Trump is there, other people are there discussing something. Suddenly in the second image, you can see Putin sitting. Okay, the Russian president is sitting in the chair. So this is a fake image. This image has been created fakely without deceiving our eyes. I couldn't see any difference. Okay, so only after keenly seeing that I can see that Putin is in the second image. So this is once again a fake image. So all these fake images are being created nowadays with the help of Photoshop studios and other software available nowadays. Fake photos are so much in the run, and they are showing this as proof in the courtroom also. So nowadays, authenticating the originality of the photograph is a big research area. So one of my scholars are working in forgery detection only. They are working on splicing image and copy move forgery. Okay. In the second image, you can see that the king Kuhn is giving some medal to a particular old person there in the first image. This person is put his photograph in the place of that particular person and try to impaint it. Can you see that there is no change? We cannot, it is deceiving our eyes. We cannot make any difference. So this is forgery being done in photographs. So this can be detected using our image processing techniques. Okay, these are the references. Thank you for listening, and questions if any.
Participants, if you have any query, please unmute your audio and ask. In chat box, there is a technical issue, so I will resolve it.